Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back yet to another episode of TWERPY. All we do is pretty much sit back here and smoke some weed and tell some stories. But today we're going to do a little tier list action of some alternative cannabinoids. So you can see here, right here at the start, we have some Delta THC. Now, this is one of the more popular cannabinoids. Most people have ingested Delta 9 if they're going to be trying cannabis. So it's one of the most ancient forms as well. It goes back, hundreds and hundreds of years, all the way to the cultivation in China. This is one of the greatest forms of cannabis, I believe, personally, considering it gets you there. It's exactly what weed should be. It's a psychedelic-like effect. It has its medicinal properties, and, it just really, at the end of the day, it's great to have. So it's great for people. It does a lot of work. I just have to say that Delta 9 THC is S tier. I mean, considering it's already one of the most popular brands of cannabis, everyone enjoys smoking it, that does enjoy smoking it, and I do think it just deserves one of the top part of the throne, So let's get into some Delta 8 THC. Now, this is similar to Delta 9 THC, but I would say the potency lacks, and there's something about Delta 8 that instead of rather getting you completely to that psychedelic-like paranoid state, you honestly get more instead to the sedated, very disassociated effect. You don't really have this heightened aware effect. You more just kind of tap more out of reality. It kind of sedates you, makes you more like you just took some NyQuil or some type of benzo. It really chills you out, and I don't get too much paranoia with Delta 8 THC. But just considering, I mean, you're going to be paying to get high. You kind of want that same potency level, and Delta 8 sometimes is not really it. It's just going to sedate you and make you go to bed, make you not want to really talk that much. So, I'm going to put Delta 8 THC in A tier because it's almost at that point. You know what, actually, we're going to move Delta 8 THC to B tier because just considering of its potency level and the fact that you're going to be really sometimes, definitely in dispensaries or gas stations, you're going to be paying as much as you would for Delta 9 THC. So if you live in a legal state, I definitely don't see no purpose of getting Delta 8 unless you just really don't want that paranoia at the end of the day. So 11-hydroxy is pretty much what you get once you ingest Delta 9 THC or Delta 8 THC or however into your gut, and it's going to be breaking up there and you're going to get high from eating it. So I would say this chemical does differ a little bit in headspace compared to Delta 9 THC or Delta 8. From 11-hydroxy, when you eat weed, you get to more of like a psychedelic, like a psychedelic-like state, but I've noticed you do need typically, or at least a stoner would typically need more cannabis to get high from an edible, but it does last longer at the same time. I would say the 11-hydroxy is going to be A tier because one of the issues too with 11-hydroxy is dosages. A lot of people get scared away from cannabis when they do edibles because they're scared that it's always going to send them to that same paranoid-like place that they're just going to make them go to bed and get lazy, and they think that's cannabis. And most of the time, a lot of people first try cannabis through edible form, and a lot of people don't have a good experience from that. So I have to say it's not as great as S tier. It has to be an A tier, and the time that it takes, for the come down and everything, you're just gonna end up sleeping. You're gonna waste most of your day and sleep about 14 hours. So let's go ahead and get into some HHC. Now, this is a growing cannabinoid. I've seen pop it out in a lot of gas stations. You can see that YouTuber Dope is Yola. I've seen his HHC. I still gotta get my hand on that and try some of that. But I've noticed with HHC, it has this more potent-like effect compared to Delta 8 THC. Maybe not as much as sedation, but it definitely gives you more of that psychoactive-like headspace. You feel more, I would say, what I call immersed about life. You get way more aware, kind of similar to Delta 9 THC. It can also, in a way, bring you to a paranoid-like, state. And I've noticed even just with like its tolerance and everything, HHC is a really good chemical. I seem to always be able to get a pretty good high from it no matter what, and at the end of the day it gives me kind of that same euphoria that Delta 9 would. It puts me in that same psychedelic like mind space that I'm craving. So I have to say that HHC, just judging, well, the only issue I would say is price, considering you would see HHC a little bit more pricier than Delta 8, and it's still less potent than Delta 9. So I want to say HHC has to probably be A tier. It's just a little bit more than Delta 8, a little less than Delta 9. It's kind of that perfect in between that a lot of people want most of the time. If they still want to do things during the day, they still want to be productive, but they still want that psychedelic like space. So HHC is going in A tier. THC, oh, okay. So THCO is very similar to Delta 8 because most of the time it is Delta 8 acetate. So because of that reason, it probably belongs somewhere around here with Delta 8, but the issue is I would say that THCO is more potent slightly than Delta 8, considering most of the time it is the acetate of it, just like how morphine is or heroin is the acetate of morphine. It's just a stronger version of Delta 8. It's a more right down in your face type version, and because of that, it's probably just a little bit above Delta 8, but it still belongs in that same category, I think, at the end of the day, because it's just really going to bring you to that same sedation state like Delta 8, but faster and stronger. But yeah, because of price, it's going to be above Delta 8 here. Now THCP, I've actually rarely seen this chemical. It might be on like a disposable, say like added THCP, but most of the time it's like CBN or something, and it's really rare that people actually just have a full jar of like THCP, and if so, it's highly expensive. I mean, it's still not much known about THCP. Some people will say it's 100 times stronger than Delta 9. I don't really get that effect out of it. Most of the time for me, it just seems to be kind of random, and also very similar to that sleepiness that THCO and Delta 8 would give you. I would say it's C tier, but just judging by like its rarity, a lot of the times you're going to be being ripped off. Most of the time it's just Delta 8, it's not THCP. And you know, at the end of the day, it's not really worth trying to look for this chemical. It's not really that much stronger than Delta 9, maybe, unless you have some super potent laboratory version of it, you know what I mean? You're not really going to be able to find that good THCP for a good price. Not worth it. Delta 10 THC. Now, this is another popular growing one. I've seen this a lot next to Delta 8. The only issue with Delta 10, I can't remember if it's CB1 or CB2 receptor, but it doesn't interact with one of those. And considering it doesn't, it's actually already less potent. It doesn't give you that same psychoactive headspace. In a way, for me, it seems just to brighten my mood, give me a little euphoria to get through the day, but that's pretty much it. It's almost like what people would call a sativa a few years ago. Like, it's pretty much a sativa-like cannabinoid. I mean, it's just going to kind of get you motivated, energized, and ready to start that day, but it's not going to be really taking you there. But because of that reason, I haven't really had much good experience with Delta 10. Most of the time, I would rather just grab that sedation. I don't really want to be too uplifted, too like energized from cannabis. If that's the case, I would rather just have a coffee, you know, just take me an Adderall or something for that day. So I'm going to have to put Delta 10 just for that like random potency most of the time. And just by judging scientifically it being weaker, I want to put it with THCP because it's just not really too, you know, honestly, I would put it even below THCP because it's not really too worth it. I mean, judging by you're paying for the same price for Delta 8, like what's the point of just getting something slightly weaker and slightly different when you can just go for what you want, the cannabis-like effect, you know what I mean? So, CBN, now this is pretty much the NyQuil or melatonin of weed. A lot of people don't know about CBN, they get a mistake for CBD, but it's pretty much just like go-to-bed chemical. It's nothing much else than pure sedation. You're just going to go to bed at the end of the day if you throw in some CBN into your bowl. And I think it's really good for those insomniacs. I'm an insomniac myself, so sometimes a little CBN in the bowl will definitely get you there and going to bed. But as far as like the actual high-like effect, I don't get much from CBN. I don't really want to smoke weed just to feel sleepy. You know, I would just take a melatonin at the end of the day. Some people like that sleepy, low feeling. No, I kind of still want to do a little bit after I smoke weed. I'm not trying to go straight to bed immediately, so I want to enjoy my high. And so CBN, I would put it in C tier because it does go good with a little bowl. You know, at the end of the day, it's a pretty good thing to enjoy. So CBD. So CBD is honestly one of the most popular cannabinoids or alternative cannabinoids, and one of the founders for all of these other alternative cannabinoids, because if it wasn't for the hemp law, a lot of these other things will not be in our grocery stores and gas stations. So, and other than that, just medicinal effects, CBD is amazing chemical. It does amazing things for people, and a lot of people have some first experience nowadays with CBD, and they enjoy the sleep, they enjoy their less anxiety, they don't get paranoid, and it just really helps a lot of people out. And because of that reason, I also want to put CBD up here with Delta 9 THC, considering just how beneficial CBD has been for the entire industry and how many lives it has helped throughout its time being, you know, in these stores. So it has to go in S tier. It's going to be one of the founders with Delta 9. And at the end of the day, you know, these alternative cannabinoids, they're not going to really be as great as the real deal stuff. You know, these synthetic cannabinoids, they're probably a little bit more cancerous, a little bit more carcinogenic a lot of times because unregulated. So a lot of them aren't going to, I don't think, be in that S tier. But if you are going to get an alternative cannabinoid, if you live in an illegal state where they don't really have cannabis, you know, go ahead and just, I would say, pick you up some HHC, pick you up some Delta 8 edibles, and, you know, and that's still going to pull you to that 11-hydroxy state. So, you know, that's for alternative, that's what I would say. And I would say these on the bottom, kind of just stay away from if you really want to have a good first like weed experience, or just a weed experience in general that's, you know, unregulated. But this is my tier list. This is what I believe in. And if you want to pick up these things, just follow my list, and I think you'll get a pretty good high. So if you disagree with me, just go ahead and leave me a comment, you know, an angry comment down there, and tell me that I'm wrong. I appreciate that. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon. We're going to be coming out a lot of more cool cannabis videos. I want to try some dope Jola products. And we're just going to get crazy. You know, I see a 2,000 milligram edible video coming out in the future. So this is my list. I appreciate y'all, and see you next time.